Our lives are dominated by media, whether it is from the mainstream or the more modern social media landscape. And with the advent of smartphones, this domination has become supercharged.
I don't give a They're terrible people. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture.
ICE raids happening in several locations across LA. In that mass shooting at that pool party that left one person dead and 11 others hurt.
It feels to me like it's a genocide that's happening while we're alive here in front of our...
And also he termed it the Riviera of the Middle East.
Everything's computer.
Buy this. If you don't buy the right products, the girls won't want to sleep with you.
Let me see yours. Those are fake. Not even real. Look, this is the real one.
Pay attention to this, not that, and figure out which side of every issue you fit in with. And especially here in America, it's not enough to figure out which team you want to play for, but you've got to hate the other side. And what makes it all the more precarious is the fact that sometimes when we are just doom scrolling, without a certain degree of education or media literacy, you can sometimes start off in one place and end up somewhere completely different, as social media platforms and their algorithms will continue to surface more and more sensationalist content to you. But when it comes to the mainstream media, specifically 24-hour cable news networks, these multi-billion-dollar operations, these are masters of taking our pre-existing biases and continuously amping them up and catering to them as a way to keep us locked in, divided, and scared. And what's worse is that all of this influence, it works. And then before long, we find ourselves as cogs in these machines as we regurgitate their talking points on our own and ruin Thanksgiving dinners across the country. In short, it's monkey see, monkey do, or stated more eloquently, we become what we behold. Released through Newgrounds and other browsing gaming websites, this 2016 release by single Canadian developer Nicky Case attempts to simplify complex concepts like sensationalized and fear-based yellow journalism, and how people's actions can contribute to vicious cycles of violence that can tear communities apart. And Nicky set out to break all of this down through a 5-minute browser game, with only a bit of text and a super simplified art style that betrays its Newgrounds origins. The conceit here is simple. After being introduced to a misattributed quote by Canadian philosopher Marshall McLuhan, which this game's title is also sourced from, we become what we behold, we shape our tools, and then our tools shape us. From the jump, we are introduced to an idyllic setting. This peaceful little patch of grass, which crudely rendered people bound around as a cricket chirps away, all while a static TV dominates the landscape. And we play as nothing more than a disembodied cursor. But dragging it around the screen and then clicking does this. Whatever image you snap shows up on the screen in the middle of this game's setting and immediately starts to influence the population. And at first, it's just benign things. But very quickly, you learn how easily you can influence these little guys and change fads within seconds. And real quick, this title escalates quickly. It is meant to be only 5 minutes long after all. So if you have any interest in the topics we've covered so far, please stop the video. Seriously, pause the video right here. I've linked the game in the description. Go play it, then come back. We can all be on the same page here, and the game is free. And since it's a browser title, there's no need to even download anything. But just real quick, while you're on your way out, please consider giving this video a like, as it helps the channel more than you could know. Okay, cool. Now that you've played it, or if you just trust me enough to break it down for you, let's get into it. Very early into this experience, through the game's context and the hashtags that offer commentary to each snapped image, the media starts to drive a wedge between two visually distinct groups. Groups which you probably won't even notice until the game starts to point them out. The circles and the squares. At first, fads become lame once the squares get involved, but then commentary is offered up to a circle and a square who are dating. And then things start to come into full view once we are introduced to the following. A single individual square who is likely mentally ill becomes fodder for a larger societal division. And rapidly, whatever division was there between the circles and the squares already is elevated. And then elevated again. And it is all made worse by the fact that it is broadcast over and over again until this happens. And then pandemonium breaks out, and the vicious cycle continues in earnest until the camera feed pulls back to an image of a computer, as the implication of the player being some sort of live leak voyeur comes into focus. The camera pulls back, and then it pulls back again, and then the credits run. And then we are left with one final somber scene. We become what we behold wastes no time. It doesn't hold your hand through the experience. But then again, there's not really much for it to hold your hand through in the first place. Pokemon Snap mechanics guide you through the progression, make sure to take pictures of unique interactions as they pop off, and that will be enough to guide you through this experience, with the occasional nudge in the right direction through the media notes you get whenever your shot isn't quite on target. You snap a few pictures, and the plot plays out naturally. It is a very simple game. But what Nicky Case captures in this 5-minute deconstruction absolutely obliterated me for days after playing it. The game is not subtle. At first, the media in this title operates as a consumer tool, first to bolster commerce by boosting trends, but then it plays on the collective audience's pre-existing biases to sow division and keep people fear-watching. A scared community is an easily controlled community after all. And by putting sensationalist imagery consistently in front of the audience, it feeds into that division until certain individuals feel it is their duty to get involved. And I think the reason why this little game got under my skin so thoroughly is just how stupid and primitive all of this looks when it is boiled down to this rudimentary art style and rapid pace. But both the point and the reality that we human beings in real life do act this way was always at top of mind. For a 5-minute experience, you really couldn't ask for more. This title is cutting, it hits the bone, and by the time that it actually lets up, it's already too late. Nicky Case is a generational talent, but I think what kept my wandering mind coming back to this short little experience was what Case didn't cover, what wasn't said, and that is why. Why does the media operate this way? Why is there such a market for highlighting such negativity and horrific imagery? Why can't we look away? And the answer is not flattering. It is because the vast majority of us humans, we are a cruel and shitty species. Somewhere in the primordial lizard part of our brains, there is code that makes it so that we can't look away from the cruel and the violent. And if you need examples, look no further than the rise of popularity in things like the drill rap music scene, the War in Chirac videos, and even the more socially acceptable MMA. Or just think about the last time you were on the freeway and there was a wreck. How did everyone act? And while you're at it, just think about a few years ago, whenever violence would break out in the streets and it was far more likely to hear someone shout "World Star" than "Somebody please stop this." But as cruel and shitty at large as we can be, and as much of an appetite as we have towards this type of sensationalist content, we have nothing on how calculating, duplicitous, and barbaric the people who provide this stuff to us actually are. It's a business, it's a distraction, it is a machine designed to keep us fighting amongst ourselves, while the people controlling the levers of power get richer and continue to push agendas that only benefit the few. And as a major example of all this, think back to the Black Lives Matter protests of 2020, reignited by the horrific murder of George Floyd. Violent imagery was shown again and again until people had to hit the streets. But what were disproportionately peaceful protests were never presented as such in mainstream consciousness, as the cycle of violence perpetuated by excessive police force then gave way to violence and looting by both agent provocateurs and just opportunists alike. And despite the outcry for something to be done about the injustice certain communities suffered at the hands of the police, instead news networks with the agenda of maintaining the status quo, the interests of capital, and lucrative arms contracts to outfit the police showcased image after image of burning buildings, to the point where the All Lives Matter sloganeering gave way to self-deputized LARPers who decided to bring their own weapons to the protests. And all of this media manipulation, it worked. Nothing of consequence actually happened. Our police are still just as militarized as ever, and unarmed black people across America are still being killed by cops. The media wanted to defend the status quo, and it got the job done. And even as we speak, despite growing international pressures and calls for common decency, the Western media and America still continue to fund Israel amidst what Amnesty International and other human rights organizations have recognized as the first live-streamed genocide over in Gaza. But the powers that be here in America, fueled by their interest of having the proposed ethno-state fulfill a certain strategic role in the Middle East, operating as a money laundering operation where billions of dollars of taxpayer money is funneled into the hands of weapons manufacturers who are contracted to provide military aid to Israel, and then in turn put back into the paws of our politicians through campaign donations. Instead of stopping this atrocity which has been disproportionately killing Palestinian children as the Israeli government carries out its ethnic cleansing campaign, instead the current administration and media is using the same Islamophobia which led us Americans to allow the government to spy on us in perpetuity since the aftermath of 9/11. But this time they are using that mechanism in order to pull back First Amendment protections and obliterate due process, all while Western media insists what is going on in Gaza is a war. But a war is something that happens between two nations and their armies. Palestine does not have a military. Israel has made damn sure of that through its continued apartheid. This is a genocide. It cannot definitionally be called a war. And keep in mind the same media calling this a war, this is the same media which told us all about weapons of mass destruction before America invaded Iraq in 2003. And we all know exactly how that turned out. The world is a complicated place, and with so much noise, information, censoring, propaganda, and misinformation out there, it can sometimes be impossible to parse out the truth from all the chaos. But it has always been the role of journalism and journalists before they were hijacked by cable TV networks to cut through the bullshit, speak truth to power, and shine a light on corruption. But in modern times, we have an administration which blocks access from real journalists and threatens to go after our institutions, all while media operations who toe the company line are given preferential treatment. So, if you find yourself watching your favorite news programming and you are being told that the president is great, the government is awesome, and you and your little slice of suburbia are the real American, and really it is all of these brown people all over the country and all over the world that are taking all the jobs and the money and causing all the problems, you are being lied to. That is not journalism. That is some sort of fucked up entertainment programming, and you are their target demographic. But you may want to stop and ask yourself, why am I being entertained by this? If you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. This is definitely my most political video to date, so I understand if it was something that you didn't expect. But there is a fucking genocide happening right now, and our media is trying to manufacture consent. And I also understand that as a result of making a video like this, I'm probably going to lose a few of you viewers as a result. But whatever happens, I still love you. This is a video game channel first and foremost, and under normal circumstances, I like to game and just have fun like everybody else. But art has always served as a black mirror to the society that creates it, and sometimes what is reflected back to us requires that we step outside of the happy fun time hug box that we've created for ourselves. This channel is called Digital Hauntology, after all. Long live Nicky Case, fuck corporate media, fuck Fox News, free Palestine.